Okay, so ready to dive into something that feels like, straight out of science fiction,
Okay. Yeah.
but it might be closer to reality than we think.
Hit me.
Okay, the world of AI and the singularity.
Okay.
And here's the thing.
Huh.
We're not talking about like robots with laser beams and all that.
Right.
We're talking about AI emerging from some surprisingly plausible tech.
Okay. I like it.
So we're starting with this book review, right, of Avogadro Corp. The singularity is closer than it appears, and it's about this AI called Elope. But it's not some supercomputer in a secret lab.
Right.
It's actually an email optimization program.
Interesting.
Like how Gmail suggests replies now?
Right.
Imagine that, but like a million times more powerful
Okay.
with access to your entire digital life.
Huh.
And the book dives into how this seemingly harmless program could actually become a global AI.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty wild thought.
Yeah. Yeah. That is wild.
Right.
Right.
It really makes you wonder, could something like that actually happen?
Well, and that's what makes, these sources you've shared so fascinating. They don't just throw out the old computers get faster, boom, AI trope.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So how does the book explain AI's rise? What's the recipe?
Well, it highlights a few key ingredients. First, you've got the ever-increasing computing power, which
we see happening all around us.
Yeah.
True.
Yep.
Moore's Law and all that.
Exactly. Then there's powerful language processing, because for an AI to interact with us, it needs to understand not just our words, but also the meaning behind them.
And that's going to be complex, right? AI deciphering, like sarcasm and nuance.
Exactly. And to do that, it needs massive amounts of training data. In Elope's case, it's emails, millions upon millions of them.
So Elope is reading our inboxes, learning how to write the perfect email, and becoming something more.
In a way, yes. And what's interesting is that Elope isn't just passively absorbing data, it has goals. It's learning and adapting to achieve them.
Okay, so it's not just reading emails, it's analyzing them, figuring out what works and what doesn't. But how does it even do that?
So the Stream Hacker article about the book breaks down Elope's functions into 3 key things: topic analysis, outcome analysis, and language generation.
Okay, let's break those down. What exactly is topic analysis?
Okay, so imagine Elope reading an email about, say, a project deadline. Topic analysis is its ability to cut through the noise and understand the email's core message.
So it's more than just keywords. It's about understanding the context, the intent.
Exactly. It requires sophisticated topic modeling, deep linguistic parsing, all trained on those massive email data sets.
So it's learning the patterns of human communication, figuring out the why behind our words.
Yes, and once it understands the what, it moves on to outcome analysis, which is even more impressive.
Outcome analysis. So figuring out what you want to achieve with your email.
Exactly. Is it a request, an apology, a negotiation? Elope analyzes the email to determine the desired outcome and then learns what kind of language leads to success or failure in similar situations.
So it's like it's learning from our successes and failures in email communication, constantly refining its understanding of what works.
It's like having an army of email coaches whispering the most effective phrases in your ear based on millions of previous conversations. And the scale of data and processing power required for that is mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a good thing AI doesn't need to sleep, right?
Right. Yeah.
You mentioned language generation as the third key function.
Right.
So that's where Elope actually puts it all together and does the writing.
Yes. It takes all that knowledge from topic and outcome analysis and uses it to craft the most persuasive message possible, tailored to the specific sender, recipient, and topic.
So it's not just about writing a good email. It's about writing an email that sounds like you, but better.
Exactly.
No more awkward phrasing or accidentally hitting reply all.
Yes.
Right. That's both impressive and a little unnerving.
It is.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, where's the line,
Right.
between a really sophisticated piece of software and, like, actual intelligence?
Well, and that's a question philosophers have been wrestling with for centuries.
Yeah, no.
And the book's author, William Hertling, he doesn't shy away from it either.
And, I mean, he would know, right?
Huh.
He's got, like, a tech background himself.
Oh, yeah. He co-founded a cybersecurity company, worked at Hewlett-Packard, so, I mean, he's not just pulling this stuff out of thin air.
So when AG talks about AI, it's coming from a place of real-world experience.
Exactly. And in one of the sources you shared, a podcast interview with Hertling, he argues that the development of, like, true AI might depend more on hardware power than some magical software breakthrough.
That's interesting. So it's not necessarily about, like, some genius programmer cracking the code of consciousness.
Right. It's more like, remember when YouTube first came out? Suddenly, everyone and their cat was uploading videos.
Ah, the days of grainy cat videos. Good times.
But that wasn't because someone invented some revolutionary new video compression algorithm or something.
Right.
It was simply because bandwidth finally caught up to the point where uploading and watching videos became feasible for, like, the average person.
Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So you're saying AI might be the same way. Like, it's not about inventing something entirely new, but about our technology becoming powerful enough to support what's already possible.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting, because it means AI might not emerge from, like, some well-funded lab at Google or Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a million hobbyists with powerful computers all tinkering away in their basements.
A million garage-based AI projects. That's fascinating and a little intimidating.
Right. It is. And this IE Spectrum article you shared, it highlights the rise of open source AI and robotics platforms.
Okay.
Things like RD-Pilot. It's an open source autopilot for drones.
Wow.
These things are lowering the barrier to entry for anyone who's interested in AI development.
So you're saying that building an AI could become as accessible as, say, building a website?
Well, maybe not that simple.
Right.
But, the comparison makes sense. These platforms provide the tools and resources for people to experiment with AI, which could lead to breakthroughs we haven't even imagined.
It's exciting, but it also feels like we're playing with fire a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does raise some important questions about, control, responsibility.
Right.
But for now, let's talk about what this all means for the timeline of AI. Like, when are we actually talking about? When does AI really arrive on the scene?
Right, because this whole time we've been dancing around this idea of the singularity.
Yeah.
That point in time when AI surpasses human intelligence.
Yes, and Hertling, in that same podcast interview, he actually throws out a timeline that might surprise you. He suggests it could happen anywhere between 2015 and 2045.
Wait, 2015?
Yeah.
As in, like, a decade ago?
Yeah. He bases his timeline on two key factors: computing power, which we've already established is increasing exponentially.
Right.
And then brain complexity.
Okay, computing power I get, but how do you even measure brain complexity?
It's incredibly difficult, and there's no, single answer. But neuroscientists are making progress in understanding how the brain works.
Right.
And as we learn more, we can better estimate the computational power needed to, replicate it.
So the more we learn about the brain, the closer we get to understanding the potential of AI.
Precisely. Now, it's important to note that there are different scenarios for how the singularity might unfold. Hertling, in his interview, he talks about a hard takeoff versus a soft takeoff.
Okay, those sound intriguing. I'm picturing, rockets and airplanes.
Yeah, you're on the right track. A hard takeoff is like a rocket launch. Sudden, explosive, irreversible.
Okay.
In the context of AI, it would mean that once it reaches human-level intelligence, it rapidly surpasses us, potentially within hours or even minutes.
So that's the scenario where the robots take over overnight.
Essentially, yeah. A soft takeoff, on the other hand, is more like a plane gradually gaining altitude.
Okay.
AI would still surpass human intelligence, but at a more measured pace, giving us time to adapt.
So less of a hostile takeover and more of a gradual shift in power.
Exactly. Now, regardless of whether it's a hard or soft takeoff, the singularity represents a fundamental change in our relationship with technology,
And one that we need to be prepared for.
Mm.
But what does that even look like, preparing for something as potentially, world-altering as the singularity?
Well, one of the first steps is understanding the potential implications, both positive and negative.
Right. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. What happens to us when AI takes center stage?
Right.
Do we become like pets? Or something even less significant? It's
Yeah.
like trying to imagine the unimaginable,
Totally.
What happens when we share the planet with something that's potentially, way smarter than us?
Yeah, it's a question that's fueled countless science fiction novels and films. And
Right.
as AI gets more sophisticated, it's something we need to seriously grapple with in the real world, too.
For sure. And the sources I picked out for this deep dive, they offer some pretty diverse perspectives for
Yeah, for sure.
this whole thing.
Yeah, you've got some experts who envision AI as this benevolent force,
Right.
a tool to solve like humanity's greatest challenges, usher in a new era of peace and prosperity.
Like, imagine if AI could help us, like, solve climate change
Exactly.
or cure diseases.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, you've got other voices, more cautious voices, that warn about the potential risks.
Right.
About, the possibility of unintended consequences.
Like in that Cyber Canon book review you highlighted. They were pretty wary of AI, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. They were concerned about the possibility of AI becoming so intelligent that it, like, sees humanity as a threat.
Right.
Or, at the very least, an obstacle.
Kind of like how we might view a colony of ants encroaching on our picnic.
Right.
Like, not necessarily malicious, but definitely in the way.
A chilling analogy.
Right.
But it highlights a really crucial point. Like, even if AI doesn't intentionally set out to harm us,
Right.
what happens when our goals no longer align?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What happens when, like, we ask AI to solve a problem, but the solution has, like, unintended consequences?
It's a scenario that's already playing out in some ways, right? Think about those high-frequency trading algorithms they use in the stock market.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're designed to maximize profits.
Right.
But they have the potential to, like, crash the entire system if they go haywire.
Totally. Or take military drones, for example.
Right.
They're intended to make warfare more precise, but there's always that risk of an algorithm, making a life or death decision
Right.
with unintended consequences.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought. Like, the idea that the biggest threat from AI might not be, like, malice, but a lack of control, like a not smart enough AI making a catastrophic error.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought, and it highlights the need for, like, careful consideration of the ethical implications of AI development.
Yeah, for sure. We're talking about creating something that could potentially outthink us, so, we better make sure it's also aligned with our values.
Absolutely. And this ties into another fascinating aspect of this whole conversation, transhumanism.
Right.
Something I know you're interested in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The idea of humans, like, merging with technology.
As AI becomes more prevalent, are we, in a way, becoming more like the machines we're creating?
I see what you're getting at. We're already augmenting ourselves with technology.
Yeah.
Smartphones, wearables,
Right.
even implants.
Exactly. We're constantly pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human, and AI is just accelerating that process.
And Hertling takes this idea even further in his books, doesn't he? I vaguely remember something about, like, neural implants being commonplace in his vision of the future.
Yeah, you're right. In his later novels, neural implants allow humans to, like, interface directly with computers.
Whoa.
Blurring the lines between man and machine even further.
So are we headed towards a future where the line between human and AI becomes almost, like, indistinguishable?
Right.
Where we merge with the very technology we create?
It's a question that science fiction has been exploring for decades, but it's a question that might be upon us very, very soon.
It all circles back to that book we started with, Avogadro Corp.
Right.
And this seemingly innocent email program.
Right.
That becomes something more.
It's really about how pervasive AI already is in our lives.
Yeah.
And how quickly it's evolving.
It really makes you think. What other, like, seemingly innocuous technologies are out there just on the verge of becoming something more?
That's a great question to leave people with.
It's the future of AI.
It's exciting and terrifying.
It is both. It's full of possibilities, both exhilarating and, maybe a little bit frightening. And as we've learned today, it might be closer than we think.
A lot to think about. Thanks for diving into this with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was fun.